Hearthstone is getting massive changes with this patch, with nerfs to almost every class. In this video, we'll be going over every single nerf, what they mean for the decks they get played in, and what they mean for the meta in general. And this really is a huge patch that is going to turn the meta on its head. So yeah, let's get started. We got a lot of nerfs to go through. No buffs though this patch, just nerfs. Let's start with the dev comment here. Well, Matt, we've been loving the fresh decks and creative strategies you've been brewing with the new cards from across the timeways, like Logos Warrior and Aura Paladin. Our goal with this balance update is to keep the spirit of experimentation alive by toning down a variety of cards that have long dominated the meta. That is true, yeah, there's going to be only pretty much old cards in this patch. Strong decks from the last expansion and influential cards like Fyrak have shaped the playing field in big ways. By adjusting these, we're opening the door for new ideas and strategies to succeed across all levels of play. We can't wait to see what you come up with next. So yeah, a bunch of neutrals getting nerfed that are just too common, as you can already see here. The first one is Fyrak, that's been getting hit because this card has been way too common, right? Deciding games randomly and then often coming down on turn 6 when it wasn't really meant to come down. And it goes from a 9 mana, cast 20 mana worth of fire spells, to 10 mana, cast 15 mana worth of fire spells, so a double nerf here. And I have a dev comment here. Fyrak has served as a go-to neutral finisher for a while, so we're cooling him off a bit to encourage exploration of more class-specific win conditions. Yeah, I think that makes sense, because so many decks, again, were running this just as their win condition, and then games felt kind of the same. And then, yeah, Fyrak just decided the games instead of you actually kind of playing the cards with a strategy behind it. So it's good. However, Narrowlex isn't getting nerfed, so you can still play this pretty early if you can cheat out that the Narrowlex is still going to cost 1 with it, but yeah, it is casting a quarter less spells, so that is quite a bit, right? It might just be 1 fireball less, and that's definitely lessens the impact, and of course, by itself, 1 mana increase. Though there is one funny thing though, if you want to play Elise, this nerf actually makes it easier to play Elise, because it's now a 10 mana card, so Ysera is the 9 mana card, and this is 10 mana, so you need 1 less card for that Elise. So if you're playing this with Elise, it might actually be easier to play Elise. But overall, yeah, definitely nerf, and definitely expect to see less of Fyrak, which I think is good. Then another card we've been seeing a lot is Ancient of Yore, which goes from gaining 5 armor to gaining 3 armor. And yeah, this was a bit too much armor gain rate, especially in a deck like Warlock that just plays the Eternal Laver on it and then just gets another 10 armor and another 10 armor. That's just a bit much, especially for a neutral card. You gotta be really careful with a neutral healing and armor gain. And yeah, when every deck can get armor, it gets a bit boring maybe, so it's getting toned down a bit, like 4 less armor overall. It's definitely sizable, but with some of the other nerfs we are seeing in this patch, it might still just see play, because it's still neutral, draw 2 and gain some health. So if you're playing a slower deck and you want some draw and maybe some armor gain, right, you might still want this, but definitely also expect to see this pop up a lot less. Then a card I don't really expect to see too much popping up is the Arcanite Defense Crystal. It is losing the taunt. Yeah, this is the third nerf to Arcanite Defense Crystal. First it went from 6 to 4 armor gain, then it went from 4 to 5 mana, and it gained the stat buff as well, and now it loses the taunt. And yeah, I think this is probably the nail in the coffin for this card, because yeah, without the taunt is very, very slow, and it loses one of the big reasons why this will play is that taunt, actually, because in a Starship deck, getting a huge minion with taunt is a pretty big difference from not having taunt, when your opponent can just ignore it. And then also, yeah, with the Arcanite itself, it's harder to clear it off, so your opponent also ignores the Arcanite itself. And then in decks like the Armor Demon Hunter, right, we've seen pop up from time to time, yeah, that definitely should die with this nerf, because it's no longer really that good of a defensive tool. It's just very slow to gain a little bit of armor to then maybe help with the Starship. So yeah, that's definitely a big nerf. Even though taunt isn't always that big for this card, it definitely is. So huge nerf to that. Another huge nerf we've got is to escape the Underfell. That is the Warlock quest. It's going back to the old version, which is 6 temporary cards instead of 5, and it costs 5 mana instead of 3. So you can see the card here. And yeah, that is a big nerf, because if you remember, before this card took over the meta, it's been the best deck for quite a while, or near the best deck. It actually was a 30% win rate. Remember that. It was 30%, and this buff pushed it to the top slot. So if they nerf it back, yeah, I think this card should be dead, right? Considering how bad it was before. I don't think it can really survive this. Not only is an extra temporary card needed, which often delays the quest by at least a turn, right? Then also the 5 mana, which might delay it by another turn. And if you delay this quest by a turn or two, yeah, it's pretty weak. Because the deck itself, right, the quest warlock, it doesn't really do much. All the cards are basically there just to enable the quest and then some damage on top of it. And yeah, with the quest being delayed by a turn or two, yeah, I think the deck is probably unplayable. I think it's for the better, but yeah, I don't think this card will see play again, unless, of course, we'll get some new cards that are going to support this archetype. Then another quest getting nerfed is the Dive the Golakka Depths from play 5 Murlocs to play 6 Murlocs. And we also have a dev comment here. This quest has been especially prevalent in lower rank brackets, so we're scaling it back to shake things up. Now, personally, it's been a while since I faced the Murloc Paladin deck. It's not very good at high ranks, but I think it makes sense to nerf it for the lower ranks, because I know I get people in chat or on YouTube that just face a bunch of Murloc Paladins, and it's just not very fun when you face a bunch of them, right? You'd rather have some variety. Like, if you face one in a while, it's fine, but if you face multiple in a row, it's not very fun. So I think it makes sense to nerf this deck, even though it's pretty horrible at the high ranks. Then another deck that is pretty good at the high ranks is the Alonius Druid, which is what this is getting nerfed for, the Sparkling File. Probably rather I would have seen Alonius getting hit, but yeah, this should definitely hit it as well. It goes from 3 mana to 4 mana, which means it's a lot harder to actually do the combo right. Often this card was used to cheat out the Sleep Under the Stars for 0. So then you play Alonius, you play this, and then Sleep Under the Stars resets your mana back to 9 mana, and then yeah, you kill the opponent with all the spell damage you got. Now this is definitely nerfed to the deck on top of the Ancient of Yore as well, right? But I can still see Alonius Druid being played, because yeah, this is getting nerfed, but other stuff is getting nerfed to a bit slower, a bit weaker, right? So this might just be able to survive just because the other decks are slower as well. But I'm happy to see Alonius Druid nerfed. Not really the biggest fan of that deck. Then we have the next nerf. It is Corpsicle, going from 2 mana to 3 mana. So yeah, another nerf to Quest Warlock as well. So that is getting hit pretty hard. And also some other decks, right? Even Frost Death Knight. It's not very common, but I could see it actually pop up after the patch. If yeah, this didn't get nerfed, maybe still will pop up. But yeah, this is a pretty big nerf, right? Corpsicle. It's not just a 1 mana nerf, because yeah, this card is meant to be played multiple times. So yeah, nerfing it by 1 mana makes it a lot worse, because having to spend 1 more mana multiple times, yeah, it's really tough to afford for most decks, right? You don't often have 1 extra mana left to spend on this, and a 3 mana deal 3 damage is pretty weak. So this is definitely a significant nerf. I can definitely see this being cut from every deck it is in. Just there's probably just better cards to play, and it's just too expensive to spend mana on this card, especially because it's meant to be multiple times, and I don't think you want to spend 2-3 more mana on this card to play it multiple times. Then we have a nerf to Death Knight, of course. There have been a lot of good Death Knight decks, and they've all been pretty much running this card. It's the Sanguine Infestation, and goes from 4 mana to 5 mana. And yeah, if all the other decks are getting nerfed, right, it makes sense to nerf the Death Knight. And it's getting the usual +1 mana. I can definitely see this card still being played, though yeah, getting 2 leeches on turn 5 is definitely a lot weaker than on turn 4, right? Because turn 4, especially if you coin it or you go first, you can hit some 3-drops with it, maybe kill it. But on turn 5 it clears a lot less, so it's a lot less impactful. And also, yeah, this makes it so that you can't go like Husk on the 6 mana Husk, right? Plus this card on turn 10. Together, that gets delayed, so that gets worse as well. And I might just see like the Chill Fallen Baron come back, right? The 3 mana Death Rattle Battlecry draw card. That's been getting kind of cut from a lot of Death Knight decks, maybe one off just to enable a least. But with this nerf, that card might just go back into favor. And yeah, I expect more of a Chill Fallen Baron and definitely less of this card. And then we have a rogue nerf coming up. It's the Sandbox Scoundrel. And yeah, this one has been a long time coming. It's been in the game for like, what, 20 months now? Yeah, extremely long time, especially for a card as powerful as this. It's enabled so many degenerate combos. I'm very happy to see this card getting nerfed. And I think it's going to have a pretty big impact on Rogue. First of all, a lot of the Rogue deck building, a lot of the 3-drops are played because of this, right? Because then you could play this and like Customs Enforcer, Observer of Mysteries in the same turn. And with just 2 mana discount, yeah, all those cards just get a lot worse. So you might not want to run a bunch of those anymore. And then also with the discount, basically the mini is only 1 mana cheat, right? 1 mana to cheat 2 mana. It's 1 mana overall. And that makes it so that, yeah, stuff like Narrowlex is a turn later. Ysera with that is a turn later. Cards like Ashemane are harder to play. It's definitely a big nerf, right? I mean, it's basically a 2 mana nerf to this card. And then even more if you wanted to Shadow Step the mini, right? That often happens. Play like this card, and you play the mini the next turn, cheat out some cards, and then Shadow Step it. And then the following turn, you have a 3 mana cheat with that 0 mana mini Scoundrel. That was huge. So yeah, basically that could mean it's like a 3 mana nerf to a card. And I think most cards don't really survive that kind of nerf. So I think this card is just kind of dead. It's losing all the big synergies that you want with this, and it's just not enough mana cheat for what it costs, like 5 mana plus 1 mana with the mini to cheat 4 mana. Not, I think, worth it anymore. So pretty happy to see this card go away. Now rogues have to find something else. And then we have the Priest nerf to Resuscitate, probably targeting the Protoss Priest because that's been pretty common. And it's really strong because you curve out to 1, 2, 3, and then you play this on coin 4 or 5. And it's really strong. It's really hard to deal with this, right? Especially the cards that they get back. You get like 2 rushes off the back of this, and then the Sentry. And that's just such a pain to deal with. And with the discount as well, the Sentry multiple times, it scales a bit too fast, the discount for the Mothership. So it makes sense to slow down. This was an incredibly powerful card. And also in some other decks, though I haven't really faced many other decks that are playing Resuscitate. There was, of course, the Wilted Priest. So that OTK Priest also definitely gets hit with this. But I think, with also the new card, right, we got this set, the 3 mana Rock minion, and then give your minions a hand plus 2 health. We already had an alternative to Resuscitate, because you don't really want to play those combined. So we might see more of that card now, though. Yeah, I think this card, you're still playing Protoss Priest, you still need the extra sentries, but you definitely have more options in other Priest decks now. Then we have the Testing Dummy, one of the sort of new decks, but not really, right? The OTK Mech Warrior, and this was not very fun. They could deal 64 damage as early as turn 7. And just wasn't a great experience, so they're nerfing this card from going 8 damage randomly split among all enemies to split among enemy minions. Now, by itself, if you get this randomly, it might actually be better to just hit minions, because often you don't want it really to go face. But if there's no board, this card is pretty terrible, so I don't think any deck ever wants to run this in their deck now. So I'm glad this deck will be gone. It has obviously no chance of returning, because if they nerfed it by 1 mana, who knows, right? It might just return again at some point, and we don't want that, so good nerf there. And we have another nerf to Warrior. It's Chemical Spill, going from 5 mana to 6 mana. So here we have it. And this is also a good nerf, I think, because there have been too many Tortolas on turn 5, and that's just not very fun. A lot of decks just can't deal with it, right? Turn 5 Tortola, it's a 25 health taunt minion, and it's untargetable, so you can't hit it with spells. And turn 5, there's no way you have 25 damage on board. So you have to smack all your minis into this, and then they gain a ton of armor, and it's just not fun. Feels like this card could have been nerfed way earlier. It's been not fun for a while, but I'm glad that they're finally doing it. So maybe turn 6 Tortola can still be good, but you definitely have a bit more time to set up to deal with it. Then we're getting the Ultralisk Cavern nerf, going from 3 mana to 4 mana, and another StarCraft card gets nerfed. It's almost like there's almost no card left from the StarCraft set that hasn't been nerfed. This one has been dodging it for a while, and this one is targeted, I think, at the Egg Warlocks, because that has been one of the highest win rate decks. And that makes sense to nerf it. However, I'm a bit sad though that it also hits other decks like Rafan Warlock, which has not been very good. So that's sadly also getting a bit worse probably. So I feel like maybe there's something else in Egg Warlock that could have been nerfed to not hit the other Warlock decks. But I guess this card is also rotating in 4 months, and then we'll see what comes after that. And this deck definitely hits the Egg Warlock, because slowing down your removal rate means you have less time focusing on the egg, and just not getting the 8-hit on board like a turn earlier. It's also a big deal, right? Then you have more time as the opponent to react to the egg, so I think it makes sense to slow this one down. But you probably still play it though in Warlock, just because you really need it as a removal with the Eternal Layover, because that's kind of the best removal you got. So I think we'll still see play, but definitely hit to it as usual with a mana nerf. Now what isn't getting a mana nerf, a very special nerf, I didn't expect this one, is the Metal Detector. It used to be, of course, you got a coin after killing a minion with it. Now you get the Death Rattle coin. So in some ways this is a buff, because you can actually hit face with this card and still get a coin after 2 turns. But of course you don't get punished anymore for playing minions against this card. You can just play minions and not be worrying about the rogue getting 2 coins and cheating out the stuff early. And this nerf together with Scoundrel, this means all the late game stuff that rogue has been cheating out definitely is a bit slower, definitely a turn later to get it on the board. So that's good, because you're not really supposed to get all those 9 mana cards on board by turn 6. Now I definitely think this card might still see play, because we've seen a lot of cards in the past that generated a coin, a lot of 2-drop minions that generated a coin see play, because getting stuff out the turn earlier is really good. And being able to go face with this as well now can also help it. So I think it can still definitely see play though. Definitely nerf in a lot of the decks, because you wanted those 2 coins very often. Then the next nerf is to Hunter. It's the RC Rampage. And then this goes from 4 mana to 5 mana. And yeah, I think it makes sense. It's kind of hard card to nerf because if you summon 5/1/1 hounds here, it gets way, way worse. That is a huge nerf if they did that. So you kind of had to nerf this by 1 mana. And yeah, this card was the best card in a lot of aggro hunter decks because you can play this as early as turn 3. And very often when this came down on turn 3 or 4, it was already 10/10 stats, sometimes 12/12 stats. And yeah, by turn 3, 4, most decks can't really deal with those amount of stats. And then the follow-up with the Dynamancy to buff them all was just a little bit too good. And yeah, with all the other cards getting nerfed, this probably needed to nerf as well. So yeah, I think it makes sense to nerf the best card. It might still see play, right? There's still a lot of stats on this card. But yeah, a turn slower means you actually have more time to respond to it. And then we're getting to the final nerf for standard, at least you can already see there's wild updates. But Battle Fiend going from a 1/3 to a 1/2, so it's back to the old version, which was also a nerfed version, because they started originally as a 2/2, then it got to 1/2, then a 1/3, and now it's back to a 1/2, so another card that got a lot of nerfs. And yeah, just like the other 1-drop, the Slither Spear and Demon Hunter, right, this card kind of snowballs early on. Aggro Demon Hunter had a really good win rate, and it's just scary, these cards that just keep gaining attack, especially early on, right? Most decks can't really deal 3 damage for 1 mana. I don't really like these 1-drops that snowball, and especially not when they have so much health. So I think for 2 health, it makes sense for this card. I think it's still some play at 2 health. And you probably still play it because it's still a 1 mana card that can deal a lot of damage early on, and it's exactly what you want in the aggro Demon Hunter deck. So that's a lot of changes coming to the standard. I mean, it's gonna change almost everything. And yeah, it's hard to predict what's going to be good, right? Like a deck like Logish Warrior that I posted a video about as well has been doing really well, like Petal Demon Hunter maybe. Decks like that didn't get hit by all these nerfs, they might just pop up. Like I feel like with so many changes though, it's really hard to predict what will be good. A good chance there will be that there's going to be like 1 or 2 outliers as well after this many changes. So we might need a new patch in like 2 weeks, but I think overall, what they're doing to standard is good. A lot of these cards have been problematic for a while, and I'm happy to see a lot of them getting nerfed, so we get to actually try some new strategies, especially from across the timeways, like all the cards from that set. I look forward to trying with those and not just get destroyed by old cards because they're just way better. So that is a good thing. So yeah, I look forward to playing this on stream, the meta, and see how it develops. And hopefully it gets a lot better than it is now. Then let's go to the wild updates. There's 2, but they're pretty significant, I'd say. And we got a dev comment here. We're making a few targeted adjustments to outliers and wild. Holy Wrath has been part of Hearthstone since the very beginning, but its current level of consistency and burst damage goes beyond what we want from for the format. As for Discard Warlock, it's a core strategy for the class and will continue to receive support, but we'll be keeping a close eye on it to ensure the cumulative impact of its card doesn't push things too far. So first of all, we got Holy Wrath. It's going from 5 mana to 3 mana, but of course it is a nerf, so the big change is that it deals damage to a minion, no longer face, because if you haven't been playing Wild, what happens is that the decks on like turn 4 or 5 play Holy Wrath, and then they had put Ceaseless Expanse on top of their deck, and then they deal 125 damage. And yeah, that usually wins on turn 4 and 5, so that wasn't a very fun deck to face. You could die super fast, and if you weren't a fast deck that won by turn 4 or 5, you kind of had no chance. So yeah, good thing they changed it. It's not very fun dying that fast with little to no counterplay. Then the second nerf here is Malchezaar's Imp going from 1 to 2 mana. And if you've been playing Wild, you have noticed there's a bunch of discard Warlocks, and they are really strong. Especially this Malchezaar's Imp meant they could just draw and draw and draw while getting a lot of stuff on board for free. And it was a bit too much, so it makes sense to make this 2 mana to slow it down a bit. I mean, Discard Warlock will probably be still a good deck. We've seen it before with like the nerf to the location for Discard Warlock. Still a good deck after that. I expect it still to be a good deck, but definitely a deserved nerf for that deck. And besides that, yeah, there's a whole bunch of Battlegrounds updates I won't be going over because, yeah, we're not playing Battlegrounds. It's basically a different game, but they're there, the patch notes. The link to the patch notes will be in the description if you're interested in that. So yeah, that is it for this patch video. Lots of changes. And again, like I said, I look forward to trying out the standard again, see how much has changed, because this is a whole lot of changing going on. So hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what do you expect from the meta, like what deck do you think will be dominating standard. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time.